for all my runners and wannabe runners out there, because I feel your pain when it comes to knees and just joints in general. I ran for a long time, and then my knees started to give out, and I couldn't run more than a mile or two, and I would just feel like my knees would buckle and they'd get sharp stabbing pains in them. And especially if you do yoga, you need this. What I realized was I had spent so much time what I thought was like stretching, but really just pulling on the tissues of my hips and my hamstrings from yoga, but just from stretching too, that it made me really unhealthy. And what saved my life, it really completely changed my life, was learning how to do 360-degree strengthening all around the hips, in every direction that your hip can move. Also, core strengthening, abdominal work, really important, back strengthening, just, in general, stronger. Lift weights, that will help your running practice. I promise you, lift weights, lift some heavy weights, nothing crazy, like 8 or 10 pounds is enough, but that'll make a huge difference in your running. And this sequence I'm going to show you in particular is the one that's just really changed everything for me and made it so that now I couldn't run sometimes a mile, and now I can run 12, 13 miles and no pain the next day, no pain ever. It's really like a miracle. So you're going to start with one shin forward and one shin back in this what we call 90-90. So I didn't make this up. This comes from kin stretch, this really cool exercise system called kin stretch. And so you have your check-in that you've got two nice 90-degree angles. You're going to take your thumbs into your palms, wrap your 4 fingers of each hand around the thumb, reach your knuckles back. When you squeeze your thumbs, it does something that's called irradiation. It's really cool. Basically, it means that adding a little squeeze of the hand and up into the arm kind of turns the lights on in the whole shape and the whole body, so that all of your musculature starts to wake up and turn on. So you're squeezing the thumbs, you're only going to lean about halfway. Especially if you're super flexible, don't go all the way. Hold yourself there, so you got to work for it. You got to work for it. That's the key here. And you're pressing your legs, both of them, but particularly the front one, into the ground, and you're squeezing the muscles of your legs into the bones. You're squeezing your thumbs, and that is irradiating. That's turning the lights on in the whole thing. So here we're marrying mobility with strength, right? And this is also working with your nervous system. When you just stretch, what you think is stretching, what most people call stretching, we do that. Really what we're doing is just pulling on the tissues of our body, and the brain is not getting the signal to send those tissues more good healthy things, like to lay down more collagen or more bone cells. The brain only does that when it thinks that we're safe. And so when we can turn our muscles on, see here, all the muscles are engaged, then our brain gets the message that we're safe. Come on up. Come on up, just rest for a moment, let your arms go, you can shake them out. So we're gonna add on to that a little bit. Do the same thing, thumbs in, wrap the 4 fingers around them, lean forward, go about halfway, squeeze everything. Now keep your back knee on the floor, just try to lift that back foot up off the floor. You might get a cramp here. And then release the foot down, come back up, tall spine. Pick your whole front leg up, just try to float it. See if you can lift the foot up higher than the knee. It's almost impossible, but you're trying. And then put that leg back down, lean forward, back knee presses into the floor, but back lower leg tries to lift up. So this little rocking horse business, this one is really incredibly healing, and I can't recommend it enough for people who've done like lots of pigeon poses and things where they've just passively been stretching the hips, right? Because especially in yoga, we really value open hips. Like there's this moral value placed on it, like you're somehow more evolved or something if you have open hips. So we've spent so many years trying to quote unquote open our hips and not strengthening them. And I can pretty much guarantee you, if you've been a yogi for a long time and you try to run, it's gonna hurt, right? Most of the time. I mean, I don't know everything about everybody, but it seems to be that all of that pulling on the tissues is not so great. So resting, go ahead and just let your arms rest for a moment. Take your hands. You can always use them if you need to on the ground. Otherwise, bring them on top of your heart. Gonna lean a little bit into the front hip. Pick up that back leg. Try to just float it, the whole thing up this time. And now stretch it straight out to the side away from you. And then try to turn it in and turn it out a few times. Can you lift your spine up out of the sort of mud of the low back so that it's not the low back doing everything, but you're really working that hip joint. Turn in, turn out, and then turn it all the way in as far as you can. Bend the knee, replace it back where it started. We'll do the front leg now, so sit up really tall. Pick up the front leg, try to pick the foot up higher than the knee. See, mine doesn't do it either. It's totally, although look, if I do this, it does, right? So it is physically possible. It's just muscles that we need to work on. It's just pathways we need to build. Take the front leg, send it straight ahead, lift up out of the low back, turn the front leg in and out a few times. Whoo-wee. In and out, in and out. And then go ahead and turn it all the way out as far as you can. Bend the knee, replace it back where you started. And then one more thing while we're here in this position, take the back leg. So first try to lift up the spine, really tall, noble, elegant spine. Pick up the back leg, the whole thing. You're gonna keep it bent, but start to bring it around in front of you. Feel how it starts to externally rotate. Don't let it touch the ground. Don't let it touch the bottom leg, but pull it as far across to the other side as you can. And now use your abdominal muscles to twist your upper body the other way. So I'm not resting it, there's space under here. I'm floating it and pulling the leg that way and using the muscles on either side of the spine to turn the upper body the opposite way. Right? Keep your hands there, undo that twist of the spine, take your top leg, swing it back around, but don't let it touch the ground this time. So you bend the knee, feel the leg roll in, lean forward, float the back leg. One more time, bring the back leg around to the front, feel it externally rotate, pull it across without touching the bottom leg. Use your deep belly muscles to twist your spine the other way. So this is working on that core strength too, which is really good. The reason your knees hurt often is a lack of stability. And that lack of stability goes into the knees. So when the hips are being pulled on, you can let that go, come back around. All right, we're done with that for now. We're gonna roll down onto the side. So whatever leg is in the front, just sort of slide down onto that hip. And you can either lie your head on your bottom arm, or you can prop it up on your hand. Either way is just great. So what's happening when your hips are not strong and your abdominal muscles are not strong is that the whole thing is sort of like wobbly, right? And then when you're running, that wobbliness is going to affect the knees. And so when you can get your hips really strong, your back, your belly really strong, your knees are not going to be subjected to the sort of winds, you know, the wobbliness. So top leg is going to stretch out straight, float up off the ground, I don't know, maybe a foot or so, and just make some circles with it, just like old, you know, Jane Fonda style. And these are no big deal, like you probably don't even feel it that much when you do, but if you do them like repetitively, like do 3 sets for a minute each, that'll really work the joint. Go the other way, so you're just circling. You're trying to keep everything else stable. So you're really focusing too on your abdominal muscles, supporting the spine. And then take that top leg, whichever one it is for you, and you're gonna make like a rainbow with it. Tap it in front of you on the diagonal. And then do a rainbow up and back. You gotta really stabilize the core here to tap it behind you so you don't just fall over. And do that a few times. And this one too, it's like if you just do, you know, 3 or 4 of them, it's no big deal. But my suggestion, I'm not going to show you here, but if you have the time, you could do it like, you know, 20 or 30 times, rest, and then do it again. And then you're really working that joint. So this is a 360-degree strengthening and mobility of the hips. So last thing we're going to do on the side here is go ahead and stack your legs again. This time stretch them out straight. Stretch them out straight. You're going to lift up the top leg, bend it, turn it in as much as you can. Try to tap the knee down in front of you with the foot facing the ceiling. So super internal rotation. I'm gonna drop my head onto that bottom arm now, and then lift the leg up, keep it bent, externally rotate, tap the toes behind your bottom leg. This one's my favorite. Up, it's bent, it turns in, and it taps. And you might not get all the way to the floor, and that's fine. Up, it turns out, toe taps. This, I think, is this combined, this one and the very first one I showed you, just that 90-90, lean forward. I'm pretty sure these are the things that have saved my body from years of pulling on the tissues of my hips and hamstrings. Hamstrings, the other thing, in running, in any sport, you want springy hamstrings, not super pulled on, weak hamstrings, right? So we'll do one last thing for the hamstrings here. So this too, you know, if you do it repetitively, you do it enough, it really works. Roll onto your back now. Same leg, we're still working this same leg. Is gonna go up into the sky. You know, if you got a strap, I'll get one. You could use it, you could use a bathrobe belt or a long sock or whatever. But some of you, if you can reach the hand with the foot, with the hands, that's fine too. So you're holding on, and normally, I don't know about you, but my inclination is just like, just stretch, right? But we don't want to just stretch because that doesn't send the right signal to our nervous system. So what you want to do is push your foot into the strap and pull the strap down into the foot or hands or whatever you've got. So there is some stretch, there's some lengthening happening, some mobility, but the main focus is actually on strengthening. And so now we're strengthening the back of the leg. Really important because you want to be able to pull the heel towards the sitting bone. You want to be able to sort of snap your hamstrings back when you run. Try this. Try pointing and flexing that top foot a few times. Point, flex, and then land with it pointed. Pull it in a little closer, and then flex and press into the strap and pull the strap down into your leg. Pull, like you're really working. My fingers, my knuckles are white. My arm muscles are super engaged. And then, okay, last thing, I think I keep saying that, but this is really the last thing, is just to bend that top knee a little bit. And so you're working different parts of the hamstring now. When you do this with a slightly bent knee, and then same thing, you're pushing the foot into the strap and you're pulling on that strap like crazy. The bottom leg solid and anchored too. Really, the lights are turned on in the whole house. And then let go, relax. You can let that leg just float on down, and we've got to even it all out. So come on back up. Whew, we'll do all that. The lifesavers on the other side. Which leg? Oh, this way. So now switch it. So whatever leg you had in front, put the other one, and you're looking to see that they're 90-degree bends in the knees. Thumb into the hands, fingers wrap around, knuckles go back, and you lean forward. And as you lean forward, you push your legs down. You squeeze your leg muscles into bones. And you're only going about halfway, so that you really have to work for it here. Push that front leg down, especially like you could push it right through the floorboards. Squeeze your thumbs too and feel that irradiate through the arms, into the shoulders, into the belly. I think we stayed here for a long time on the other side because I talked a lot. So we're gonna stay here for a little bit longer. This is just such good medicine for your body. And then you can come on up, rest for a moment. You can shake out your hands, shake out your shoulders. We'll do it one more time, but we're adding on that rocking horse now. So thumbs in, fingers wrap, arms reach back. As you lean forward, you're pinning the back knee down to the floor, but trying to lift the lower leg up. This is the thing that's missing in most of our lives, is strengthening and internal rotation. Come on up. Try to lift the front foot higher than the knee as you pick the leg up. Again, almost impossible, but look, not impossible. So we've got our work cut out. Keep going like that, rocking horse. Lean forward, back, lower leg lifts, knee stays down. Lean back just a little bit, not too much. Pick up the front leg, keep it bent, pull the foot up. A couple more times. Don't worry if you get Charlie horses or cramps here. It's really normal until you start getting used to this, because probably this is really new for most bodies to do this strengthening in internal rotation like that. Okay, relax that, relax your arms. So you can have your hands on the floor, right? If you need a little more support, even on blocks or something. Otherwise, they're on your chest, and you're gonna pick up the back leg and try not, the tendency is to like lean way over to the side and compensate and kind of like squish into the side body, and the low back does everything. See if you can elongate out of the low back. Try to even tuck to your low back, like, hey, you don't have to do all the work right now. We're really working the legs. Pick up that leg, the back one, stretch it out to the side, and then turning in and turning out. Here the turning out's gonna be the harder one, right? Turn in and turn out. Oh, just go to whatever your range of motion is here, and then turn it externally rotate one last time, and then turn it in, bend the knee, replace the foot back where it was. Other side. So that front leg, and imagine it just floating like pixie dust sprinkled on it. Float it up, try to lift up out of the low back, dignified spine, and then front leg extends straight out, and you're working on turning this one in. Holy cow, that's hard. In and out a few times. Woo-wee. And you're gonna first internally rotate it as far as you can. Look, mine hardly goes anywhere, and this is with years of doing this stuff. Turn it out, bend the knee, put the leg back where it started. Now the back leg is gonna float up. One last thing seated here in this 90-90, the twist. So back leg picks up, it's gonna come around the front. You feel it start to externally rotate it. Rotate, you pull it across over the bottom leg without touching, and then activate those spine stabilizer, deep abdominal muscles to turn your upper body the other direction. Go back where you came from, but don't put the back leg down. Float it, lean forward a little bit, hover. Whew. And last one, pick it up and all the way around. Hover, externally rotate, pull it across. Belly goes the other way, chest going other way. And then bring it back to where you started. And now we'll just slide down onto this other hip here. And you can lay all the way down. Whoa, I feel that. Whoa, all right, all the way down. And I ran 13 miles yesterday, and I have no pain. I feel that, what we just did, but it's really amazing, this stuff. So you're on your side here. You're gonna take the top leg and first stretch it out and just do some circles. Again, no big deal, right? Compared to everything else we've done, this is like nothing probably. Circle the other way. Try to keep really stable so it's only that leg moving, right? It's not the torso, not anything else, not the bottom leg, right? So add these and, do these every day, like 2 or 3 sets of them, and to where you start to feel a little burn. And then the rainbow, so tap that leg out in front of you and tap it behind you. Super stable spine, super engaged core muscles. Oh, it's the only time I'll say engage your core. If you've taken my yoga class, you know that that's like my one of the things that makes me crazy, how much people say engage your core when you don't need to. But here you really need to stabilize yourself. Otherwise, what happens? You just sort of like rock, right? You just sort of plop and rock, but just the leg moving, nothing else. And then the last thing, go ahead, stack your legs again. Send them out long. And that in and out, practicing strengthening and internal and external rotation. Top leg goes up. Turn it in, bend the knee. Try to tap the knee down in front of you so your lower leg perpendicular to the floor. It's pointing straight up as best you can. And then you externally rotate, point the toes, tap them behind your bottom leg. And so in and out, right? This one too. You do it a few times, no big deal. You do it like 20 or 30 times, really strong. And that comes from exercise science too, that it's adding load is what our tissues really need. And you can add load by adding weights, but one way to add load is just through repetition, right? The more you do it, the more you really change your body, you change your tissues. So you can do this as many times as you're able to, and then we'll stretch the leg up into the air, roll onto your back, grab your strap if you've got it, or whatever you got to wrap around that top foot, and resist the temptation just to like hang out here. I know we want to, we just work really hard, but push the foot into the strap and pull with all your might so that every muscle, there's nothing left out here. Every muscle in your body is like, woo, lights are on. Pull, push equally, both ways. So it looks like nothing's happening, but so much is happening. And then relax a little bit, flex and point the top leg. Flex and point, flex and point. Point it, bring it in a little bit closer to you. And then flex, if you can, and push and pull. So we're going to maximum range of motion, and then working on strengthening, which is working with your brain to create healthier tissues. Your brain likes this. It responds to this strengthening in full mobility position here, full range of motion. And then relax, bend the knee a little bit, doesn't have to be too much. And then we just work other parts of the muscles with a bent knee, pressing into that strap, foot into strap, strap pulling down into foot. Everything the bottom leg is, you're still aware of too, like nothing sloppy and just hanging out here. Everything is really bright. Whew. And then you can release the strap if you have it. Let your leg float down to just feel, not miss that, right? That feeling. And then, so that's stuff you can do before a run or on your days. I'd say probably best on the days when you don't run. And then for after running, I often will do toes curled under and just sit back, do some ankle stretches. Sit here. This one too, time with this one is important. So you do it for a couple seconds, no big deal, but you do it for a minute. Ooh, and then you can counter that by sitting on the feet, walking the hands back and lifting the knees up. And then on the days where I don't run, I will do a long Subdivirasana or saddle pose in yin, and either sitting on the heels or sitting between the heels. And you can do them both because they affect the body different ways, but going back, either onto elbows, onto shoulder blades. You can put pillows and whatnot underneath your back, but don't do this before you run. And don't do like super duper hamstring stretches before you run. Things like I see a lot of people before they run, they do like this kind of thing, or they'll like, do this. Don't do that. You don't want to do this before you run, okay? You can do it after you run. It doesn't do much anyway, honestly. It feels good, right? It feels good. It's like placebo effect. After the run, this is nice. But if you do things like this before you run, then you're weakening the hamstring, right? You're pulling on it, and that pulling is making it weaker, is what's happening. And then you go out to go run when you need your hamstrings to be really strong and bright and springy. The hamstrings pull the foot up behind you as you run, which is good form. And so if you have hamstrings that have been weak and pulled on before you run, your legs are going to be a million times heavier, and you're not going to have as good a form when you run. So those are my helpful tips for runners. Let me know how it works out for you, and Go for it. Get out there. It's beautiful today. Start today. Do a little run.